Hello everyone, welcome to my video. So today we are going to discuss the correlation between epistemology and the COVID-19 vaccine. Now this video is part of an assignment as a fulfillment of the Philosophy of Science course PHK 101. Now let's go to the video. Now before we get any deeper into the discussion, we first need to know what are the branches of philosophy. Now there are no actually concrete or actual division of how philosophy is branched, but generally it is divided into 5 branches, which are metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, aesthetics, and logic. But today we are going to be focusing on epistemology. Now, what is metaphysics? Metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that studies reality, what is what and what is not, what is real, what is not. And logic is thoughts or considerations made to make something look rational, make something look correct, or make something look appropriate. Next, we have ethics and aesthetics. Now, what are ethics? What are aesthetics? Now, ethics is the philosophy of moral. It encompasses norms, behaviors, and character. So it sort of controls what we do, how we do things, and what we say, and it's sort of like a social construct, whereas aesthetics deals with the value of something through beauty and deals with the perception of the senses and intellectual mind. So it controls what we see as beautiful, it controls what we see as matching, and so on. Now we're going to talk about the real showstopper today, which is epistemology. Now epistemology means mind, thinking, and knowledge. Plato used epistemology to understand what is to know or what is knowledge and why it is good for the knower. When talking about epistemology, we cannot avoid discussing about knowledge. Knowledge in the English language can mean various things, such as knowing an individual, knowing how to do something, and knowing a fact. But today we are going to be mainly focusing on knowing a fact. Okay, so now that we've discussed about philosophy and the branches of philosophy and epistemology, now we can move on to the second variable of today's video, which are vaccines. Now, what are vaccines? Vaccines are substances that contain antigens, weakened antigens of a disease that sort of tries to stimulate an infection of the actual disease. Now, it increases our immunity by stimulating an infection that cannot cause the actual disease, but will still trigger the production of T lymphocytes and antibodies, meaning the immune system. So our immune system will react and recognize these antigens as foreign bodies that need to be eliminated. Now, after the imitating infection has been eliminated, the body will have a supply of memory T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. Note that it may take several weeks for the body to create both T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. So if patients contract the disease during this time, they may show symptoms and catch the disease itself. Now, there are 5 types of vaccines: live attenuated vaccines, inactivated vaccines, toxoid vaccines, subunit vaccines, and conjugate vaccines. But there are other types of vaccines that we will discuss later on in this video. So keep on watching. Now, let's discuss the types of vaccines, the conventional types of vaccines. First, there is the live attenuated vaccines, or short for LAV. Now, LAVs are vaccines that contain a weakened version of the pathogen or antigen. This type of vaccine is very effective, seeing as how they are very similar to a natural infection. However, there are some risks to this type of vaccines, such as the reversion to their original form and causing the actual disease. However, this is unlikely, but still a possibility. It is also possible for this type of vaccine to harm patients with compromised immunity, and there are other risks as well, such as giving them out to vulnerable communities, like people with HIV and AIDS, or elderly people, or children who are too young with a lower immune system, with a weak immune system. Next, we have inactivated vaccines. Now, inactivated vaccines are vaccines that contain pathogens that are already killed or are already inactivated. It is safer than LAVs because it can't actually cause the actual disease because the antigens and the pathogens are actually dead, but it may not induce an immune response at the first dose, meaning that this type of vaccines have a lower effectivity rate. So sometimes patients need to get second doses or even third doses to stimulate an immune response. Now, the third type of vaccines are toxoid vaccines. Toxoid vaccines are vaccines that use the weakened version of the toxins. The immune system then fends them off. A weakness of this type of vaccine is that it may require several doses to induce an immunological response, but it is highly safe as it cannot cause the actual disease. So it's sort of similar to the inactivated vaccines, but these just use the toxins that are present at the disease. Now, there are subunit vaccines. These vaccines only use parts of a pathogen, not the whole pathogen. However, this type of vaccine has a relatively lower effectivity as it doesn't guarantee that memory will form to fend off the original pathogen. Now, the last type is conjugate vaccines. A conjugate vaccine coats the weakened pathogen with polysaccharides that disguises the antigen. So this particular type of vaccines is sort of hard for children's immunity to detect. So it's not really recommended for children, but it may be an alternative for LAVs. So next up, we are going to talk about the type of COVID-19 vaccines. Now, there are various types of COVID-19 vaccines, and as I've mentioned before, there are going to be some new types. So the first up is the mRNA vaccine. Now, this vaccine gives the genetic materials or the mRNA for our body to create the harmless protein that make up the COVID-19 virus. Now, to be exact, the protein is the spike protein surrounding the COVID-19 virus. So this is what gives the COVID-19 virus its name, the coronavirus. It's sort of shaped like a crown. It's surrounded with spike proteins. Now, after the body has created these harmless proteins, the immune system recognizes them as a threat and eliminates them, leaving memory for our immune system to fend our body in future attacks. So if we get infected with the COVID-19 virus, our body will have sort of a head start to recognize it as an antigen. The second type is the protein subunit vaccines. Now, the first vaccine, the mRNA one, uses the body to create the proteins itself. But in this vaccine, it contains the spike proteins themselves, so the body will not have to create these so-called spike proteins. So it already contains the spike proteins inside of the vaccine. So that's why it's called the protein subunit vaccines, because it only contains part of the virus. Now, the last type of the COVID-19 the COVID-19 vaccine is the viral vector vaccine. Now, this vaccine coats the genetic materials or the DNA of the virus that makes up the spike proteins of the COVID-19 that is harmless. The body then produces said proteins using the DNA given and disposes of them via the immune system, again, creating memory for our immune system to fend off future attacks. So this is very similar to the mRNA vaccines, but these vaccines, they use the DNA as a genetic material as opposed to the mRNA. So it's said to be more stable for mobility and for packaging. Now let's move on to the discussion. Now, as mentioned before, epistemology is a branch of philosophy and encompasses the scope of knowledge and its definition. Surely, epistemology has given birth to a myriad of advancements, seeing as how at the core of advancements there is knowledge. In the case of the COVID-19 vaccine, it plays a pivoted role. Knowledge regarding the coronavirus has given a leap for scientists to work earlier in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. This is according to It's Okay to Be Smart's YouTube channel. Knowledge regarding on the genetic material became the basis of the vaccine as mentioned above. The genetic material and proteins are what the COVID-19 vaccine is made up of. I believe that without epistemology, this would never have been possible. Now, in addition to that, epistemology also tackles the how questions mainly. How? This characteristic further boosts the vaccine development as scientists know how the virus operates and can mimic what it does. Due to the nature of the vaccine being a stimulation of an infection, scientists need to know how the virus multiplies and how it operates in order to mimic it. If this is not attainable, then a vaccine could not be procured. In sum, epistemology plays a significant role in the creation of the COVID-19 vaccines. Now, I have some recommendations for academic institutions, practitioners, and also the business industry. For academic institutions, I recommend that academic institutions should educate the people regarding the vaccine to earn the trust of the people so that more people can get vaccinated, supporting the vaccination program, further ameliorating the pandemic situation. Second, the academic institute should also support research like these in case of future disasters and pandemics. For practitioners, I recommend that practitioners should keep on researching and distributing the COVID-19 vaccines in order to end the pandemic. With more people vaccinated, more people will become immune and the virus will be isolated and can no longer infect other people. For the business industry, I endorse the business industry to support the vaccination program by sponsoring it or maybe helping fund future research to prevent any more pandemics and disasters. So that's about it for today's videos. I thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, I apologize for any mistakes that I made during this video or any misleading information that may come from it. Here are a list of references that I used. You can check them out also at the description below. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.